Hi there, my name is John Fife Miller, and today we're going to talk to you about transitioning your business to new ownership. So first, what I want to say is congratulations. You finally got a deal in place. And you know what? One of the things you do know is that all that prep work that you did at the beginning has paid off. But now I'm going to tell you some of the hard work begins. So hold off on the champagne yet. Let's wait until that deal closes. So first I want to talk to you about really what a signed agreement means to you. First off, it is a legally binding document. The buyer has committed to you to buy your business. Usually it will include a deposit. Again, you can write that up any way you want, but my suggestion is that a deposit is important to you because it shows commitment from your buyer. One of the things I do want to say though is non-refundable isn't quite that. You will see that that deposit is defined as non-refundable, but I'm going to tell you, I knew two businesses in March of 2020, both that were due to close on sale and both didn't. Today, those businesses are still in the hands of the current ownership, and in both cases, those deposits were given back. Now, this is a decision you can make as an owner, but always look to your professionals for information on that. We talked earlier, your signed agreement should contain everything you've agreed to. And that is from conversations to emails to texts to, I don't care if it's written on a napkin at the end of the day. Make sure that information is in that agreement. Always keep in mind, money will change hands on closing. This isn't unlike selling a home. You'll get a deposit, and on the agreed upon closing date, that is when money will change hands. Hold the purchaser to the agreement. Holding the purchaser to the agreement is key, and that is why we do these agreements in the first place. Your agreements will probably have times, they'll have dates, and you want to make sure, number one, that you are holding them to what they've agreed to. But the second piece falls on you, and that is don't procrastinate. At the end of the day, you want to get done what you've committed to in a timely fashion. So get on it right away. The last thing, and probably the most important thing, is a signed agreement can be broken. Up until that closing, you will know that people can walk away, and they walk away for varied reasons. One is they might not be able to get financing. They might have thought they had it, but they can't. Another option is they may have had a change in life where they can't take over your business, but understand that these agreements can be broken. I also want to talk to you for a minute about the psychology of selling. We've said earlier, it becomes very, very easy to second guess your decisions, and you don't want to do that. Always remember, and if you need to, write it down. What was your goal through this process? Your goal was to sell your business. What have you done? You've done exactly that. So don't second guess it. Continue to run your business until that sale closes. Don't let anything slide. Leaving it for that next person is not beneficial. One of the things I would say to you is start an exit strategy that suits you and, as importantly, suits your family. So when you're having those discussions, make sure your loved ones are around you to have those discussions with. What does your exit strategy out of that company look like? Stay upbeat, especially with staff and customers. It is important that you sell this sale to them. And you staying upbeat ensures that they will stay positive. It also ensures that you'll continue to hold on to those customers, which is key. So many times customers worry about the sale of a business. Are my costs going to go up? Is my service going to go down? You reassuring them makes sure that they feel comfortable. Don't underestimate the toll that this can take on people around you. Everybody will react differently to a sale. You will have a reaction, but I'm going to tell you, of your employees, they will all react differently to this sale. So again, don't belittle the challenges that some people may have and work with them to get them through the process. I'm going to say to you personally, this is going to be mentally challenging to you. If you need to get support from outside professionals, do it. because it is important. I'm going to tell you, for me, in July of this year, I gave up my business of 42 years. That's 42 years of going to the same place to work every single day. There was a big hole for me and a real challenge for me to get through that big hole. So don't look at it from the perspective of you can control this. We all need help sometimes. And if you need it, get it. And the last thing I want to say is be happy because you have done what you set out to do. So, are your professionals up to speed? First, I'm going to tell you they should be, because you've included them through this process. So everyone should be aware of where you are to this point. But let's make sure we get copies of that sales agreement in their hands ASAP. When I tell you that requests from your professionals are going to come quickly, and you'll have a lot of them, that's an understatement. You are going to need to be on top of those. So when I say to you, make sure that you deal with these quickly, you need to. Make sure your team sees all of the correspondence from your financial institutions. When your business is sold, you will want to communicate with the financial institutions. And if you're going to do that and they're asking you for things, make sure your accountant and your lawyer see what they are asking for. You want transparency and you want everyone to be on the same page. If you used a broker, get their final paperwork and fees. Don't leave that. You don't want to be waiting for that for 6 months down the road. My suggestion is I would go to all my professionals and ask them for a checklist. Get them to tell you what they're going to need and when they want it. It's going to make it easier for you. And share completed information with all of them on a regular basis. Yes, they might tell you partway through, I don't need to know that, but you'd rather have that than them coming to you and saying to you, oh, John, why didn't you send me that information? Now, I think it's time we communicated with staff. For those of us that have a senior staff, my suggestion is you communicate the message to them first. I think it's important that they know, and it's important that they know first because these are the people who have been with you through thick and thin. Then I would suggest you meet with as many staff as you can. Why? Because one, it's incredibly transparent. But two, staff is going to talk, regardless of what you do. If you meet with everyone, you will not get third-party conversations about the what, the why, and the how. So try whenever possible to meet with as many people as you can. Clarity is key. So share everything within reason. And there may be some things you can't share. But for things you can, you need to be prepared to answer those hard questions. Be frank and honest about the future. And this is a real important one. So often we want to feel that we need to tell staff what they want to hear, when the real truth is we have to tell staff what they need to hear. So you need to be frank and honest about the future of the business and what that future holds for them. Ensure that they have a chronology of what's happening when. Again, you'll have that from your sales agreement, but let your staff know, because all of a sudden they could have new people walking through the building on a regular basis and they want to know what's going on. So let them know. Be positive and instill the feeling that the change is beneficial for them. One thing that's important, don't commit to anything that you can't ensure. I'm going to give you an example of that. In my business, my employees always got their birthday off. They would get the day of their birthday or they would get the day after their birthday. When we amalgamated with a new business, that was not a policy they had. Because of the amalgamation, my employees lost that as a benefit. That needed to be communicated and needed to be communicated by me to them. Because when you hear it from someone else, it creates controversy that you don't need. The last thing is, and I would say this to you, don't listen to the armchair quarterbacks. A lot of people will rethink what you've done and what you've decided. And you know what? You know what you've done is best. So try not to take that information in. So what about our customers? There are 3 key things that I think that are important with your customers. One is move quickly. Second is move quietly. And third, and the most important thing, is do it personally. Inform your key accounts first. They've been with you for a long time and you want to let them know. Again, be prepared to address specific questions of your customers. If you don't know the answer, my suggestion is you get it and you come back to them. Sell the sale and why it's beneficial for them. Sales usually work out in the long term to be beneficial to the business itself. So you want to sell to your customers that this is going to be beneficial for them. Why? Because you want them to stay with the company. You want your purchaser to be successful. Again, don't commit to anything that you can't ensure. One of the big things I would tell you too is ensure that all correspondence is joint correspondence with the purchaser. So it's key that your messaging aligns. Again, in the case of an amalgamation, you both need to be using that term when you're talking to customers. You don't want somebody saying, I purchased that company, and you're saying that we've amalgamated. So align your messaging so your messaging is always going to be consistent. So depending on who your purchaser is, processes differ greatly. And so I want to talk about some things to watch for while focusing in on that exit strategy that works for you. One of the things we aren't going to focus in on is the legal and financial opinions. And I'm going to tell you again and stress to you, you have professionals that will do that. And the information is changing constantly. So it's imperative that when you're looking for that information, you are dealing with the professionals you've put in place. So let's talk first about selling to an existing partner. We talked earlier, a shareholders agreement is a key that should be in place, always. I also said value your business every year. If you do that, one of the great things that you have is you have an agreed upon sales price with your partner already. It may differ a little from that, but the fact is you've always agreed on how you're going to move this forward. And the reason that's important is the chances of you and your partner leaving at the same time are remote at best. Chances are someone is going to buy something. So having that agreement in place on an annual basis is key. Keep it business. I was with my partner when we amalgamated for 12 years. When I sold my shares to my partner's son, one of the key pieces is this is a business deal. They're friends of mine, they're colleagues of mine, but in the end, this is a business deal. Set terms for buyout, including an exit strategy. When do you want to go? Roles and responsibilities. If you're staying, for how long? And what am I going to be doing? And company expenses. If you have company expenses, are they staying? This could be either a share or asset sale. So the walk away at 50%. What this is the day you hand your keys in on the closing of this deal, what is the potential for you to walk away from this company? I'm going to tell you it's 50%, which means that chances are you're going to be staying around for a while. How long is that? I'm going to tell you make plans to stay around for a 1-year period. Now, I want to stress, this isn't a 1-year period of working the same number of hours that you've always worked. But this is a 1-year period of you being there and ensuring that the transition of the business is successful for your partner moving forward. Selling to a family member or family group. One of the positive things about this is it's going to keep your family history and legacy in place. And for many of us that own family businesses, that is key. Communication with family is key. And when I say communication with family, I mean communication with people outside of the purchasing group. I have 2 children. I would have loved for one of my children to take over my business, but neither one of them did. But if one of them had wanted to, it's as imperative for me to communicate with that child that's not purchasing the business as it is to the one purchasing it. They need to know why that person is getting to buy it. Again, and this is the hard rule to keep it business and family. I worked with my father for 10 years. I worked with my sister for 22 years. I'm going to tell you, keeping it business is tough, but through this process, work towards that. Set terms for your buyout, again, including that exit strategy, the R&R, and the company expenses. And again, this would be a share or asset sale. Your walkaway here is harder. Why? Because we have that personal tie with the purchaser. I'm going to tell you your walkaway here is 25%. And I'm going to tell you, make plans for a 2-year exit strategy. I could tell you here that with a family business, you could make plans to have a no exit strategy, because the chances of you not being involved in some way in this family business as it moves forward is remote. But that mentorship and ensuring that that family member is successful moving forward is key. So you need to ensure that you're willing to commit some time to that for it to be truly successful. Selling to an employer or an employee group. One of the great things is the continuity for your customers. Your customers will deal with the same people regardless, and they will see very little change in that business on the day that the business closes. More often than not in this area, the business will finance the sales. So moving forward, when we look at that buyout, it will be the success of the business moving forward that is going to finance the sale of the business to you. Have an employee share ownership plan in place. I think that's key because, again, not unlike a sales agreement, this will be something that will outline specific things. Set terms for the buyout, including an exit strategy for you and roles and responsibilities. Again, this could be a share or an asset sale. Your walkaway here probably is 50% and a 1-year timeline for you to stay around. Again, keep in mind, these people have worked with you for a long time, but there are key pieces to your business that they will have never done that you always do. And training them to do those successfully so that they're successful is key. Selling to a competitor. So I'm going to tell you that competitors normally are looking to purchase your customer list. They want market share. One of the things that's extremely important through this is to use a non-disclosure agreement. And I'm not saying that's not important in all of them, but for this especially, you are going to share private information on your business with a competitor. When you do that, you need to ensure that that non-disclosure agreement is in place. I'm very big on releasing information gradually. Don't give them everything that they need all at one time. You need to build that relationship and see how important is this sale to them really. Trust your gut. There's an emotional piece here. If this is going well, you're going to know. If this isn't going well, you are also going to know that. And I'm going to tell you, if you get to a point where you can't trust this deal, you need to walk away from it. And I think that's key at the end of the day. Because I've said before, there's a reason this person is a competitor. So it's important when you go through this that in the end you're comfortable with the outcome. If going through this sales piece you aren't comfortable with how this is going, then you need to walk away from this deal. Again, set terms for buyout, including that exit strategy and the R&R. And I'm going to tell you, most of the time this is going to be an asset sale. I'm going to tell you your walkaway here is 75%, which is a positive if you want to get out quickly, and a 3-month timeline that you probably need to be there to make some adjustments. One of the things I would strongly suggest is this does not become a long-term piece. You will find it very difficult when the management team of a competitor comes in and starts directing you in your own business. So keep it short, keep it concise, keep it to the point, and be prepared to walk away. Selling to an unknown third party. Now, I'm going to tell you from a business perspective, this is probably the easiest way for them to get into the game. They want to be in this industry, and them being able to buy a business and get into this industry makes it so much easier for them to hit the ground running. Again, it is imperative that you use a non-disclosure agreement with this. Release information gradually. Again, trust your gut here. I would suggest, if you can, not to carry this loan. And the reason that I suggest that is this is a third party who's somebody that you don't have any relationship with. I would try very hard to get this done in such a way that you are not carrying the financing for this company. One of the things I will tell you from a business perspective, this is one of the best options on the table. This allows you definitely to keep this all about business. This would be a share or asset sale again. Your walk away would be 75%, and I would give this 6 months. They are going to come into your business and not know a great deal about it. You are going to have to walk them through some of the processes. Is everything from this purchase going to be done in one deal? We've talked earlier about that. And what we've said is when you're purchasing the shares of a company, you are purchasing the whole entity. And that's great. But when you do an asset sale, you are purchasing individual pieces. So what we want to look at here is what are the benefits of having one buyer as compared to multiple buyers? On one buyer, everything is in one package. So for you, there's little work and there's little time at your end to get that sale through. One of the big things is it removes having a lot of personal conversations. You're dealing with one entity, and that is really important. And it is an easier way to walk away on closing. You have one buyer that's purchased everything, and that does make it simpler. When you're dealing with multiple buyers, I'm going to tell you there is a lot more work at your end. You're left selling multiple items to multiple individuals. It's time consuming and it drains a lot of energy. It also means you have to have a lot of personal conversations with an awful lot of people. It also leaves you with disposing of things that can't be done. Again, I'm going to use our company as a prime example. When we have to do asset sales with multiple buyers, it may mean that we have to dispose of our ink ourselves. Well, there's a cost that's involved to us for doing that. Whereas when we sell the company as an entity, that person taking it over takes on the responsibility of all of those items. Multiple buyers can have a risk reward. You can definitely, with multiple buyers, get more dollars in your pocket. But understand the risk at the end of disposing of things that aren't purchased for. And this is really important, for instance, if you're in a leased space and you have a finite set amount of time. Again, we moved from one location to the other. We needed to be out by a certain date. Anything that we didn't move come that point, we disposed of. We had someone come in and take it out to the junkyard. And the fact is, there was good product there. We simply just couldn't sell it. The other thing that I'll tell you is it does take longer than you think to deal with multiple buyers. The next item we want to talk about is your actual agreement. How's it formatted? Time to take a look at exactly what you sold. As you deal, and we dealt earlier with some of the different types of organizations, and we said there were different deals in place for different people. We want to go through and we want to take a little bit of a closer look at these and see exactly how these are working out. So again, let's talk about a share sale. If a share sale is an extended buyout, which chances are it's going to be, ensure you regain full ownership on default, and that's key. I would personally request monthly financials, especially if the company is financing of the buyout. You want to know that the company is in good financial position in order to ensure that they can pay you. Confirm that all the licenses are up to date until payment is complete. So for me, I'll tell you that on my deal, I have an 8-year buyout. In that 8-year buyout, I want to make sure that everything's kept up to date. So if the individual defaults and I come back in, I'm not left scrambling with things that I can't control. And if purchased fully, try to walk away and enjoy your life. On a buyout, clearly outline the payment schedule. And as importantly as you outline the payment schedule, clearly hold the person to that schedule at the end of the day. If you're going to get paid on the last day of every month, don't let that slip to the first day of the following month, or it's a weekend, so I'm going to let it go through to the 3rd or the 4th. Make sure they stay online. Request quarterly financials as a minimum. Don't let payments slide. It's so easy to do, but you want to ensure that you are getting paid when you say you're going to get paid. And again, confirm that all licenses are paid up to date until that payment is complete. A cash sale is great, and I'm going to tell you this transaction is as straightforward as it can be. Keep everything up to date until that close. One of the things that's a caution, and that is stay out of the weeds. If you have a cash transaction that's closing on a specific date, deal with your business until that date and then clean up and walk away and enjoy your life. The employee share ownership. One of the things I would do, I would ask for the hierarchy of how the business is going to run, and it is really important if you are going to stay around for a while. My big thing is, if you stay around, who are you answering to? And make no mistake how difficult that is. For years, you've made the decisions for this business on behalf of your employees. Now your employee or group of employees is going to make those decisions based on you. So the fact is, you need to understand that. Again, if there is a buyout on this, I would be asking for financials, and do not let those payments slide. Be prepared to defer decision making. That's hard. Again, we go back to the employee-employer relationship now has flipped. You want to be prepared to allow them to make the decisions that they have to make. And an important piece, offer assistance when requested. It's very easy for us to address what we think should be done, but I think it's key that you are there to offer assistance when someone is actually looking for it. On an amalgamation, and part of the challenge with an amalgamation is, are you leaving or are you not leaving? We're going to assume that you are leaving, and if you are going to stay, one of the things that I would suggest to you, if you choose to stay, confirm a management role. Why? Because it's an easier adjustment for you. And it could be a management role with a management contract that's set for a set period of time. But again, I go back to, you've always made decisions on behalf of this business, and you want to continue to make those decisions. And probably that's where you're strongest. Accept that things are different. Even though you're in a management role, you are not in an ownership role, and you will have to adjust to that. Direct staff to go to new ownership. Again, more often than not in an amalgamation, your staff is going to stay. Your staff will continue to come to you. They're going to continue to tell you that there are challenges. It is imperative that you direct them to new ownership. Give opinions, understanding that they are simply that. I'm going to tell you, when I bought the business from my father, one of the greatest reliefs that you get as an owner is when you ask a question, you realize that you're not getting direction, but you're getting an opinion. And understand, for you as an owner, when you go into this model, that you are simply giving an opinion at the end of the day on what should be done. Should they choose to ignore that opinion? That's their prerogative, and that's their right at the end of the day. It's not meant as an insult to you, but you have to be prepared to accept that. The other thing I would tell you is be positive. You're probably there for a short period of time, and you being positive and enjoying that experience is important. And again, the last one is the auction or estate sale, and we've talked a little bit about this earlier. Let an auction house price what you have left. Don't attend the sale. Ensure your competitors are aware of the sale, and most importantly, remove anything personal to you or anything that you are emotionally attached to. Now, one of the things we did want to get a little bit of a tighter focus on is the family business. And I'm going to tell you, being part of a family business through my 42 years, in both my family and my partner's family, one of the hardest things to get rid of at the office is family dynamics. As much as we want to make it about business, more often than not, it's about family. So one of the things I can't stress enough is that communication with this is key. Don't think this is going to be easy, but let's go through some of the pros and cons of a family business. Some of the pros, it's definitely going to keep the legacy of your family alive, which is, for many of us, is a very key thing. You can stay involved. As I said earlier, as much as you try to get away from a family business, you're always there. I know family businesses where the father has sold to another family member and kept an office. They're not getting paid, but I've seen them come into work every single day to be a part of that. Why? Because it's something they've done for over half of their life. Financial dealing is usually easy. Usually dealing with a family member and trying to come up with an agreement is simpler than it is trying to come up with an agreement to a third party. Most family members know what went into growing the business, so they're aware of the value. And most sellers tend to look at their children and give them an opportunity to purchase their business in a cost-effective way. Continuity for staff and customers. Again, if you have family members who have been there, your staff and your customers will continue to get that continuity. More often than not, I'm going to tell you that a successor is predetermined. Again, in my business, when I started there was no mistaking that probably for the 10 years that I would be the successor to my father. I can tell you in my partner's business, there is no questioning that his son would be the successor to him. And if all is done right, it will build strong family ties. Now let's talk about some of the cons. First thing we want to sort of address is second generation syndrome. And we've all seen this, and we all know businesses like this. One of the hardest businesses sometimes to survive is the second generation business. And the reason for that is all the sweat equity that was put in by the first generation, even though it was seen by that second generation, the second generation recoups that. The second generation comes into a family business not having to put in the hours in order to build the successful company because the company is already successful. So when that parent leaves, the challenge becomes that second generation does not have the same work ethic at times, and that can be challenging. It can destroy larger family dynamics. I know of two families that are very close to me where the children do not speak to one another anymore because one child took over a business where both were working there. It's really hard sometimes to not make it part of that dynamic, and you have to be really careful in how these deals are done, or it can destroy that family dynamic. Default is extremely difficult. I'll tell you, it is extremely difficult for you to look at a parent and say, yeah, I'm not going to pay you for your company, or look at a brother. Default becomes more difficult and guarantee of payment becomes much more successful. Again, a lot of parents who leave struggle with giving up the leadership role. I know of one company where the parent left, the parent came back, and when they came back, felt even though their son owned the business, that they were still in the leadership role of making decisions. Ultimately, what happened was that business broke into two separate companies. And so you have to be careful with that. And lastly, the responsibility for success or failure regardless. And what I want to say with that is we went through business all our lives. We learned a lot. But I'm going to tell you, I learned a lot more by falling down and getting back up again than I did when things went exactly the way they were supposed to go. What I'm going to tell you here is your children will fail at times. But even though they fail, they will learn something. And that's the goal. You have to let them fall down. So the dynamics, as we talked about, are tricky. The goal is never to divide a family. So communication with all family members is key. When you have multiple children and you are going to sell your business to one, it is so important that you communicate with the other two children on why this is happening. Ensure that all other family members understand your decision making. Clearly outline what your role will be. You are no longer going to be the leader here. And if you're not going to be the leader, What you want to do is you want to go to the new management team and ask them what you want your roles and responsibilities to be. Separating family and business, while it is extremely difficult, is doable, and it is really important that you do it through this process. Get these in place, and I will guarantee you your family dynamic will be stronger when you come out the other end. Again, we've talked about this. Accept the fact that your opinion is simply that. Your children are going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. When they are looking to you for direction, offer it, but allow them to make the decisions that they need today. People fall down on occasion, and letting them scrape their knee is something that is beneficial in the long run for the business. And celebrate their success. And this is really important. You ran your business. You know how successful it was. What you need to hope for is that when your children take it over, that they are more successful than you were. If they are, celebrate that, because that's a positive thing. So, what if I sell my family business to a third party? I know 4 companies in my time that had family working within their business and chose to sell their business to a third party or amalgamate with another company. What are some of the pros? Again, business is business. This is a business transaction, and you really can hold it to that. It removes any thoughts on nepotism. If that's something that's a concern in your business or something that's a concern of your employees, let's be honest, selling to a third party removes that discussion altogether. It can minimize conflict with staff. One of the great things about selling to a third party is it will bring a different perspective to your company. And let's be honest, while your children have a different perspective than you, one of the things that you're going to find is the actual desire to see your company go into a certain path is usually fairly consistent from generation to generation. But selling to a third party actually may bring in a totally new dynamic to your business that you were never willing to take on. So it can make your business more successful, not just for you, but for your children who may still work there. One of the most interesting things is it removes the pressure off family members who are not interested. Again, I go back to my children. I would have loved my children to be interested in my business and wanting to take part in my business. In some instances, we find that owners will actually have their children working there, hoping that their children will want to take it over. But more often than not, we have children that aren't interested. Well, this removes that. It takes the pressure off of them and takes the pressure off the family dynamic. Some of the cons, well, again, we talked about it, lasting family implications. One of the things is you will give up the legacy of your family business. If that's really important to you, this is a challenge. But now you have a full new leadership team, and that may be difficult. It can erode trust. If it's a small family business, it can really erode trust in the business and trust in your decision making. You lose any control over the business. Once that third party comes in, you really are out of control of what the future will look like for that business. And it can build instability, especially if a family member remains. I know a business that sold to a third party. Their young son worked there for 1 year and after 1 year got let go. So it can really build that instability because we feel that personal connection with our family and how that business is run. Final takeaways from today. Again, we see that one size doesn't fit all businesses. We need to do lots of work once that agreement is signed in order to get the deal done. Small details are key in ensuring that this deal is successful moving forward. Communication with our professionals and our stakeholders are key in the success regardless of what the type of sale is. Format an exit strategy that is going to work well for you and work well for your family. Psychologically prepare yourself for what's coming. This is going to be hard on you, and you want to be prepared for that end. Offer leadership and assistance, accepting that mistakes will be made, and always remember their success is your success moving forward. Again, we talked earlier about some of the challenges of today. We know that COVID and the government subsidies are a challenge, especially on small businesses. We know some companies flourished through COVID. while other companies were extremely challenged. Inflation is at a 40-year high, and that is really impacting our business right now and impacting our bottom line from a sales piece. Interest rates, while they continue to be a challenge, interest rates really now are more where they are normally going to be. And supply chain on some of our businesses are very, very difficult in actually controlling our businesses and being able to do our day-to-day operations. But again, in the end, I want to stress, you need to make a deal that is going to be best for you and best for your family. So on behalf of Corporate Training Solutions, this has been Transitioning Your Business to New Ownership. My name is John Fife Miller. My email and phone number are there, and thank you very much for your day.